Thank you everyone for joining us. We're just admitting everybody into the webinar and we'll be getting started right away. Good evening, everyone. My name is John Taves, and I'm the event coordinator at McNally Robinson Booksellers. We're broadcasting tonight from Treaty 1 territory, the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. In addition, McNally Robinson Booksellers itself rests on the land once occupied by the Métis community of Roostertown. We are completely delighted that all of you could join us here, both here in the Zoom webinar and viewing on YouTube, both live now or in the future, perhaps. While it's unfortunate that we can't gather in person, it is delightful that we can welcome so many people from across this province, across the country, to celebrate this completely delightful and book, Menno-Nightcaps. Cocktails inspired by that odd ethno-religious group you keep mistaking for the Amish, Quakers, or Mormons. So I'd like to thank the author S.L. Klassen, who you'll be hearing from in just a moment, as well as the publisher TouchWood Editions for making this happen, as you were all surely in for quite a treat. I won't take up too much of your time myself. Right now, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping notes. So first of all, after I leave this screen, I'll turn things over to the host for this evening, Andrew Unger, who will be speaking to S.L. Klassen about the book. There'll be a conversation and perhaps a cocktail demonstration. And then following that, there'll be the opportunity for all of you in the audience to ask questions. So please do feel free to just write those questions in the Q&A box. You'll find that button right at the bottom of the Zoom webinar screen. So just click the Q&A button, write in your question, and we will get those to Klassen as time permits. I should also stress, being a bookseller, that copies of Menno-Nightcaps are available from McNally Robinson Booksellers, both in Winnipeg, in Saskatoon, and at our Forks location. You can visit us in person. You can order over the phone. We do offer curbside pickup. We also offer in-store browsing, so take advantage of either one. And you can also order it online or over the phone and have it mailed to you wherever you may happen to reside. If you live in Winnipeg, we can even offer courier service that will get this book directly to your door. But that is more than enough for me. I'll be back at the end to remind you once again that purchasing a copy of a book is always an excellent idea. But before then, I would like to introduce the incredibly interesting and entertaining people you'll be hearing from over the course of this evening, which I will do through an evident mastery of technology. So, first of all, our featured guest tonight, S.L. Klassen, writes, attends Mennonite functions, and drinks cocktails in Toronto, Ontario. She has a PhD in history and a lifetime of experience with Mennonites. In 2013, she became a Mennonite humor and cocktail blog, or began it rather than becoming it. That blog is called The Drunken Mennonite, which led to Menno-Nightcaps, and it has all been downhill since. Your fearless host for the evening, Andrew Unger, is best known as the author and founder of the satirical news website, The Daily Bonnet. His 2020 novel, Once Removed, published by Turnstone Press, won the Eileen McTavish Sykes Award for Best First Book at the Manitoba Book Awards. His latest book, a collection of Daily Bonnet articles called The Best of the Bonnet, will be available in the coming weeks, so please do keep an eye out for that incredibly anticipated collection. Andrew is a writer, public speaker, and educator from southern Manitoba whose work has also appeared in G's, Rhubarb, Ballast, Preservings, on CBC.ca, the Winnipeg Free Press, and Friends Journal, among many others. He is a graduate of the University of Manitoba and lives with his wife, Erin, in Steinbach. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming S.L. Klassen and Andrew Unger.
Hi, hello. Welcome everyone here, and welcome especially to Sherry. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. So, I'm really excited for this evening. I'm especially excited to drink some, well, I'm in Steinbach, so that means I have to drink mocktails only, apparently.
Yeah, I thought that was a myth, but yeah, that's what you said you would do. So.
Well, I'm in Steinbach, and this is being recorded. That's why, for those purposes. But so I guess maybe should we?
Well,
before we get into,
yeah, we've never met each other, like,
yeah,
right. So I think we have to do the thing.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. We've never met. We've never even. I don't think we've talked other than
just
online.
Yeah.
So like, who are your parents?
Yeah. So my parents are Aaron and Helen Klassen. Helen Heinrichs, Aaron Klassen. He's from he's from Homewood area. You know that line of the Klassens. My grandfather was D.D. Klassen. You know
Okay.
them?
I've seen that name come up in the Q&A already. Was your grandfather famous?
He was. Yes, he was a radio preacher actually for a couple decades.
For which denomination?
He was Bechtaler. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I don't know if we might not be related because I don't think I had any Clangemeinde in my ancestry, and I think I've got some Sommerfelder and I've got some Bechtaler, but I think that's it.
It might be, but we might have to go back.
Yeah.
A number of centuries.
What village in Russia are your people from?
Okay, well, my dad's side is Kleine Gemeinde, so they came here in the 1870s, and they were from, they were literally from Steinbach, Borisenko, and then they founded Steinbach, Manitoba. But on my mom's side are MBers, and my grandfather was born in Rukanau, Malachna.
Right.
So I have the book. Do you have the books?
Of course. Yeah, I've got some books. I've got my I'm sure everybody who's watching this also has their genealogy at hand. I was a little worried though, Andrew, because before coming on here, I looked on the Daily Bonnet, and the headline was about somebody cheating on.
Yes.
I just wondered whether that was a confession,
I have not. I had planned to cheat, but I resisted the urge. I just wrote the article instead. But there's that website. Are you familiar with that website?
Yeah.
You just go. You can type in any two Mennonites' names, and it'll tell you how closely you're related.
Yeah. I mean, you have to pay for that, and I'm just too frugal.
Yeah. But I have. Which books do you have? Maybe we have the same books.
Just discovered that I've got. Well, this is the family history that my aunt wrote. So
right.
That one. I've got the Heinrichs of Hauptstadt here.
Oh, I have this is the Bergman Wheat side. I've got this one.
Oh.
That's my mom's side. I guess you're probably not in that one. I do have some Heinrichs in me.
Yeah.
What else do you have?
Maybe we have a Heinrichs connection. Yeah.
I have the Unger pet anthology.
See, I thought that was
all our dead pets. All our dead pets made into this book.
Well, okay. I do not have that. That is impressive. I wondered if there was an Unger collection, because I do have my mother's brother's wife's sister married an Unger. Now he was a Mennonite Brethren, but that's yeah. So if your Unger is kind of
were they from Blumenhof?
I don't think so. I think they were from Saskatchewan. But
that's the wrong.
Yeah.
That's the wrong Ungers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Actually, maybe somebody that's something, you know, I think there, if any of our
Somebody,
are on this webinar, maybe they can help us out, let us know how we're related.
I don't think we should take the time to do it right now, but if someone else is on that website while we're talking, you could find us on there and see how closely we're related.
Yeah. Okay. So we should get on to
we'll pass that task over to someone else.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll. I think, you know, one of my aunts was supposed to come on here, and she probably knows. But okay. So you want to make a mocktail? You want to make a mocktail?
Yes. Well, I want to make a cocktail, but I'm being recorded, so let's make a mocktail.
I actually just don't trust how what would come out of you if you drank it. So okay, so the one I'm going to show you how to make, and so I'm just going to follow along. Most of my cocktails, I'm just going to say, have at the back of the book, there's a section here called Sunday School Sippers. You can't really see it very well, which explains how you can make them into non-alcoholic versions. I put it at the back of the book because then that makes you feel like you're the cool ones. If you're like, you know, it's like being at the back of the bus or back of the church.
Back of the church, yeah.
Yeah. So the one we're making is the Thunderfelder. And I chose that one because it's got a real Mennonite connection to it. But I thought we'd make the cocktail first, and then I can talk about we can talk about Sommerfelders, and we could talk about some of the story around that cocktail. Okay?
Sure. So you're making the mocktail or the cocktail?
I'm making the cocktail, and I'm talking you through making the mocktail at the same time.
Oh, at the same time. Okay.
Because I can do that. Yeah.
Impressive. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So I have my glass.
Okay. Is this okay?
That'll be fine. Yeah.
It's from the MCC.
Okay, good. Yeah. For people outside of Manitoba, the MCC means a thrift shop.
Yeah.
So you have like a measuring tool?
Yeah, this was also literally my wife. I'm not even kidding. She got this in the candle section at the thrift store. But this will work, right? It's got the measurements on it.
It's got measurements, yep. An orange, or maybe you've already squeezed your orange.
I have orange juice, yeah.
Okay. If you are doing the cocktail version, you will put amaretto in it, and rye. And I particularly made sure I got Manitoba rye. For
nice. Gimli.
A pineapple. You don't actually need to have a whole pineapple. Pineapple juice. And a cocktail shaker. Nice. Okay, so we do another cocktail shaker. And we're going to start with, you're going to wait for a minute because we're going to start with the alcohol. And I put in 1.5 ounces of the rye, and 1 ounce of the amaretto. Now, when you're making the non-alcoholic version, you want to get some of that almond flavor into this. So in the book, I suggest, so it's 1 ounce of this. So using orgeat, which is a lovely, it's like an almond simple syrup. And I do have a recipe in the back for making your own, but it's kind of tricky. So, so the little cheat that I didn't put in the book, but I'm telling you here, if you come to this session, you get this extra little tip that you can use, that you can just use simple syrup with a little bit of almond extract.
So you told me this ahead of time, and I am a terrible Mennonite because I purchased simple syrup, and the ingredients are literally sugar and water.
Yeah. Yes.
Do I lose Mennonite points for that?
I think yes, you do lose Mennonite points.
So I'm doing 1.5 ounces of that, or
no, you're doing 1 ounce. 1 ounce
Wow.
of the simple syrup. Yeah. And
With
then-
a splash of the almond extract.
yes. Yeah. And then, okay, yours. Okay. Okay, actually.
Oh, I should have poured that in here, right?
Into, yes, you have a cocktail shaker. Excellent.
Yeah.
People who don't have a cocktail shaker, sometimes don't have cocktail shakers. You know, for a while I used just a mason jar with a lid. That works too. You don't want to use Tupperware. You need something that's solid. Okay, so then an ounce of the pineapple juice.
Okay.
Into your here. An ounce. Now I pre-measured my orange juice. So and I do encourage freshly squeezed orange as opposed to the out of a
As
carton.
opposed to this stuff I'm using.
Yeah.
How many ounces of that do I do?
Also an ounce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, because you have less quantity because you don't have the 1.5 ounces of the rye whiskey, so you're making it in a smaller glass than I am. But
Right.
you might, I think I mentioned before. Oh, okay, sorry. Now you're putting a whole bunch of ice in there.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you might decide if you make this again that you want to double it up because it's going to be a pretty small drink, or you might just top it up with some like some sparkling water. Okay, now this is going to be loud because you gotta give it some good shakes. So you have to get it nice and chilled, and also it kind of breaks up some of the ice so that it gives it a nice little texture. If you use orgeat instead of the simple syrup thing, you also get a little bit of nuttiness to the texture, but oh well. Fill your glass with ice. Ooh, and I had a nice little bamboo straw somewhere that I seem to have.
Oh, a straw. I don't have a straw.
Yeah, well, that's you don't need one. But obviously you wouldn't use like a plastic straw. And my garnish that I prepared in advance. It needs to have an assistant at all times. Yes, the garnish that I already chopped from that and prepared. Here it is. A little bit of pineapple.
I have a straw now.
Excellent. And there it is.
There's mine. Not as nice as yours, but
No, but you made out. yes, lovely. And no mishaps. That was
yeah. Made it through I think if you make it through unshunned,
yes.
then you did good.
You did good, yes.
Okay, now we try them. Okay,
Yeah.
cheers, or whatever. What's the Mennonite? You have a thing about, don't you talk about that? What's the?
Yes, there are a number, but I would just we just say to the peacemakers and.
Okay, to the peacemakers.
Now, yours using the simple syrup, you might want to adjust the sweetness. If you find it too sweet, add a little bit of maybe some lemon juice, or next time you make it, do a little less. Sort of depends on how sweet your pineapple and orange juice was too. So anyway, there's that.
Delicious. Yeah, delicious.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, do you have any Sommerfelder in your ancestry, Andrew?
Not that I know of. I have been to Sommerfeld, like the village where it takes its name
Right.
from. I've been there.
Yeah, I wonder if I have.
Have you been there? I think there's still, it's like still, kind of a traditional DARP with, I think there might even be like a house barn there still.
Yeah, I know at various times I've toured various small towns in Manitoba. I can't remember whether Sommerfeld was one of them. Yeah, so the story, sort of why I wasn't going to read from the book here. I could read just this one. Do you think I should read it? Or yeah, why don't I just read this one?
Sure, at least, yeah, sure. Give us a little, sure, read a little bit.
Okay, so what I say for the Thunderfelder, in 1922, about half of the Sommerfeld Mennonites and most of the Old Colony Mennonites had had enough of the Manitoba government reneging on the Canadian government's promise that the Mennonites would have complete control over their schooling. If that happened, they knew that their children would begin speaking English and would therefore lose all hope of maintaining their faith. Anticipating that everything would just go from bad to worse in Canada, they packed up their German school books and left for Mexico. So of course that's not all of them, and it doesn't. But the split was over the schools question, and the picture. Oh, I wanted to share the picture. So that I'm going to just share my screen for just a second, okay? Wrong view. There. So the picture, sorry. So Andrew, do you get a vibe from this picture by any sense?
Well, it looks kind of like 1930s sort of propaganda posters kind of thing, or like a political poster. It looks like to me.
Yeah. I mean, because I was going for like a Soviet propaganda.
Yeah,
poster.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was the 1920s, and also because, well, even though these Mennonites came over before the Russian Revolution, I just thought it would be funny to co-opt the style of the Soviets, because we're not really, we're still a little bitter about the whole revolution stuff. But also, so I wanted to have a woman. I'll stop sharing. I think you've seen it all now. So I wanted to have a woman there, and that's like for two reasons. One, because a lot of times Mennonite history narrative is really masculine, and so that's sort of just showing a different side. But also a personal reason, because my great grandmother was a Sommerfelder, and she was one of those who really, really wanted to go to Mexico, but it was like she wasn't. Her husband said no. So we have this image, we have this story of her having all her bags already packed and ready to go. So I have just I don't know. I don't think I read the second somewhere on that thing. I didn't think I read that part, right? This cocktail is in honor of the thunderous voices of the Sommerfeld Mennonites. That is part I didn't read that part, but so I imagine this is a picture of her, like with her bags packed and her thunderous voice. So I really don't know whether she had a thunderous voice at all. So anyway,
that's how you imagine her.
Yeah, I mean, no, not really. I don't think a Soviet poster, but she was, she felt very strongly.
Well, it's a thunderous cocktail. Even the mocktail is thunderous.
Mm-hmm.
Thunderously delicious.
Yes.
So your main sort of like your Manitoba connection would be through the Sommerfelders. Did you ever? You've lived your whole life in Ontario mostly, or?
Yeah, my brother was born in Altona, but then my parents moved back before I was not back. My mother was from Ontario. My father was from Manitoba. And then when they got married, they moved to Manitoba for a few years, and then they moved to Ontario before I was born. So I visited a lot because I have a lot of family out there, but I've never lived there.
So how does the sort of Kitchener-Waterloo influence come into the book? Does it sneak in there?
Oh, well, I think it's it's what I have is because I was a Russian Mennonite, but I was raised in Kitchener-Waterloo, which is predominantly the Swiss Mennonites.
Right.
Some of them don't like being called Swiss Mennonites, so I referred to them more as Pennsylvania Dutch Mennonites. But they, so I really kind of saw both. So that's where I think in the book I was really conscious of having some Pennsylvania Dutch references, having some of my own, the Russian Mennonite ones. I think I got sort of that balance because I saw both sides there. I'm probably a little more passive aggressive than your standard Manitoba Mennonite too. You know, like Kitchener-Waterloo is a little more known for that. You might not have known that because
I didn't know that.
No, that's because they're so passive aggressive that you don't even recognize it. It's
wow. Yeah. So that's interesting. Okay, so is that scary? Is that intimidating?
It's you just gotta know. Now that you know, whenever you talk to somebody from Kitchener-Waterloo, you'll be second guessing, right? They'll be, wait, was that a compliment? I'm not sure if that was a compliment.
Maybe not. Oh wow. Okay. I've been to Kitchener-Waterloo once.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there was supposed to be a wall though between Kitchener and
Waterloo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They tore that down. You know, the fall of the Berlin Wall. You'd heard about that, but you didn't hear that it came down. Yeah.
Yeah, that it came down 89. It
used to be called Berlin, right? You knew that.
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah. So I mean, we've really kind of been talking about this a lot, but your book is not just not only cocktail recipes, but there's also all these historic descriptions that go with each recipe. What made you kind of decide to combine history with cocktails? Why the combo? I think it really works, but what inspired that?
Well, I mean, we both wrote blogs, so we both know about the internet. So one of the things, I mean, and it was in the introduction too, that it started off as my my drunken Mennonite blog, and one of the things that I noticed, sort of like, because I'm a trained historian, but so every now and then I would write these blog posts about history, about like they were not the ones that were the most popular. Right? Even though I thought they were pretty brilliant, but nobody else did. So when it came to writing the book, I said, well, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it, and I'm going to sort of highlight all these sort of like the bits about Mennonite history that I think are funny, and people want to do the quizzes, they can still go onto the blog, but that was kind of part of it. And I don't know if you've found that too, Andrew, with your blog, that sometimes what other people like the best isn't always what I like the best. So that was, but anyway, that's sort of why the historical focus. And because I'm a trained historian, I love history. That's sort of what goes behind it too.
Yeah. So that happens a lot. Well, not, I mean, sometimes, if I read a Daily Bonnet article, sometimes I can just tell, okay, I know before I post it, okay, this one is going to be well received or whatever. But other times I'm like, oh, that one was so funny and does nothing. And it could be the algorithm on Facebook or who knows what. But so sometimes it goes against my sort of contradictions there. But with your book, you actually wrote all new cocktails for this?
I did.
Yeah.
Because you know what, some of the cocktails, and I wanted them to be better. Like, sometimes for the blog, I would just I'd try a few things and there's a lot that are kind of similar to each other on the blog, because it was more just like the theme and try to do things. And if it didn't work, but I wanted to like post the blog that week, I would just post it anyway and say, it isn't the best, but here it is. but yeah, for the book, it's basic. That was one thing, when I was writing the blog, I was surprised when people were actually making the cocktails, because when I started, I just thought that was kind of just a joke. And then, so I started like making them better. And then when I was like a book, I was like, okay, no, people are actually going to make these. So so I really, I worked at making them better. And I also wanted punnier titles that would work for people who don't have to read my 1,000-word blog post in order to get it.
Yeah, I think maybe we have a little bit of that in common, because in the Daily Bonnet and also in Once Removed, there's loads of puns, and I think every single one of your cocktail names is some sort of pun, and you have to be smart to get some of them, I think.
Yeah, some of them I think. Some of them people. There's like a little Venn diagram of the people who get both the cocktail name pun and get the Mennonite reference pun. Otherwise, I'm hoping you get one or the other. I hope that's good enough.
That works. That works. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. If you get the Menno history reference.
Yeah.
Or the cocktail.
Yeah. Yeah. Just.
Okay. Yeah. So how long did it take you? So if you like actually wrote all these recipes from scratch, and I imagine, because you said you actually you knew that now people are actually going to make them, and so they had to be good. So you must have tried recipes and then tweaked them, and so how long did that whole process take of actually coming up with this many fresh recipes?
Yeah. I mean, there were like a couple that weren't new. There were like probably 3 or 4, but otherwise I got the book contract in April, and I told them I would have it to them in September. So yeah, it was the summer. It was summer of 2020, when nobody had anything to do but to go out, but to stay home, right? Like I was staying home. I was like ordering alcohol online. I was making cocktails. And there were a few weekends when it was getting tight, when I just would like just take a sip, right? It was like, I'm not drinking this whole cocktail because I have 5 I have to taste, right? Like, so I'd be making a whole bunch. And but at the beginning it was like, oh no, I'll just make one today, and I'll make one now, I do have a full-time job, so I couldn't just like all day. It was mostly weekends.
Just breakfast before work.
Yeah, before work, of course.
Yeah. So you actually you signed your publishing contract based on a pitch. You didn't have a complete manuscript.
Yeah. Nonfiction. You can just do pitch.
Yeah, that's right. That's more common in nonfiction. Yeah. So how did you? So like, it probably to some people sounds unique or unexpected or whatever, that someone would propose a Mennonite cocktail.
To some people it might seem that way.
Yeah. Well, no one's ever done it before, so obviously.
No, I think to everyone that seems unusual. And that's part of what sold it. It took me a while to like, because when I was writing the blog, a number of people told me, they were like, oh, you should write a book. And I was like, come on, who would publish a Mennonite cocktail book? But I kept talking to people, and I kept, eventually some of those people were people who knew something about publishing. And and then I thought more about how it could work. And so writing, and in the process of writing a proposal, it came together. So it sort of the concept, because it's a pitch, but it was like it's not like it's just like a paragraph. It was a whole proposal. It's a multi-page document, and I had to really think of. I think I had all of the drink titles, almost all of them, at the time of when I did the proposal.
Oh yeah, because coming up with good drink titles, I can imagine that would have. It's a good thing you had those ahead of time, because that might have taken even longer than coming up with a recipe.
Yeah, that's true. It's fun though. I mean, that was a fun period of just kind of coming up with and looking at the names of cocktails and figuring. And there were some things that I just knew I wanted to include, and then I had to come up with a cocktail around it. And some of it was the other way around, right?
Okay, so for some of them, you sort of came up with the title first, and then matched the recipe. And some you're like, okay, the other way,
Yeah.
So pitching this book, so that you're saying, okay, I want to make a Mennonite cocktail book, and I imagine a publisher would say, well, Mennonites don't drink, or if they know anything about Mennonites, they probably think that. So I'm just, which is a misconception, which you talk about in the introduction. But what was your own family and church background? Growing up, what was the view on booze?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember there ever being a sermon about it one way or another. I mean, I've still never heard a sermon for it, but my own family, my dad used to make his own wine when I was a kid, and it was like absolutely horrible stuff. It kept me off alcohol for years, but then at some point in my childhood or youth, they stopped drinking because they found out that they could get cheaper auto insurance if they just could sign off that they were like teetotalers, which has to be the most Mennonite reason not to drink, right?
Yeah. Is that a thing, or is that still a thing?
I don't know if it still is, because it sounds like you're like keen on it, right? Like, okay, yeah. I could save money. I don't know, but it was at some point anyway. But my extended family did. So like at family events and things. And certainly I don't remember any there weren't church events that had alcohol at them. And I don't remember going over to other church friends, but it wasn't like it wasn't something that it was forbidden. It was just something that my parents didn't do and others did. That was kind of the culture. I gather that in Steinbach, it's still a little or not really.
Well, I joke about that, but I don't think there's too much of a stigma towards that. I mean, I wrote an article about because Steinbach is famous for having all these referendums over the years that gradually liberalized the liquor laws until maybe 10 years ago. They finally sort of said, okay, yeah, it's a free for all. Drinking is allowed. You can drink in bars. There's a liquor store now, all that kind of stuff. But I did an article about the Steinbach residents to vote on whether to acknowledge each other in the liquor store.
Right.
And, but really, it's not like that. Like,
okay, that's still like, because I remember that joke. Sorry, not to suggest your humor is at all dated, but I kind of remember that joke from when I was a kid.
No, for sure. Yeah. Well, but the funny thing is, though, that was one of the earlier Daily Bonnet articles, and people literally thought that was real. Like Winnipeggers, especially, because they have the perception of Steinbach, and to some degree justified, that it's
40 miles in 40 years, right? Wasn't that? Yeah. Who was that? Was that Rudy Weaver? Who was it who said it was 40 miles and 40 years away?
I don't know who first said that. I know that was quoted in a New Yorker article about Miriam Toews, but I don't know where that first originated.
Yeah. I don't think she was the first one to say it, but it was probably.
Who said that? Did someone say that? Who? Yeah, 40 years and 40 miles in 40 years. Yeah, that makes about sense. That makes sense. Yeah, maybe someone will. Nobody has piped up telling us if we're related, by the way. At least I haven't checked the chat. Maybe it's in the chat.
Yeah, there's 21 things in the chat there. We should probably.
Should we? Yeah, I see that there's like a Q&A and people are supposed to put the questions in Q&A, but I actually see there's a bunch of questions in the chat too.
Yeah.
So let's.
We don't always listen to instructions very well, do we?
Let's reward the people who actually listen to the instructions by answering their questions first. Okay. How's that? Okay, but they're all about your grandfather. Okay, so Bruno Klassen says, do you know Bruno Klassen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He says, how do you think your grandfather Didi would react to your book and blog?
I think he would laugh. I think by now he would laugh. It's not like I'm suggesting infant baptism or anything, you know.
Well, this is a really, do you know Pamela Clausen? That's super.
Those are all my cousins. Okay.
Okay. So you could just okay. So you know Pamela Clausen. All right.
Thank you, Andrew, to come to my family gathering here.
Yeah. Okay. Bruno also said, I think this is a rhetorical question, was her grandfather famous? I used to own a store in Roster in Saskatchewan. When Mennonites from Manitoba would visit our store, we'd try to make a connection. If all else fails, I would ask, do you know Didi Clausen? Invariably, they did. Connection made. So what books do I need to read that your grandfather's mentioned in? Like, there must be some books where he gets a paragraph or two or more.
I'm pretty sure he has a Gameo entry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look that up.
I mean, my father actually even has a Gameo entry, so
The only person I think that I'm related to that would have one would be Klaus Reimer, who founded the Kleine Gemeinde. Yeah, he's directly my great grandfather. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you think Klaus? I don't think he would approve of you at all.
He would. No, you're definitely not. Well, if you were Kleine Gemeinde, you'd be out for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I don't know. I don't see. The thing is, he was
opposed to laughter. He was the only church reformer that I could find that was actually opposed to laughter.
Yeah, and I actually have seen that in
things about him too, but that one, yeah.
in my more recent, like not in Klaus's day, but in more recent, like maybe just like 80 or 100 years ago, I even saw it in family history books mentioning how some of my great aunts weren't allowed to laugh, like, and they were shocked when they once saw Dad, laughing. That's how. So I guess okay. So Klaus Reimer would not approve of me, but you're saying Didi Clausen would approve of you. Is that one?
And Didi Clausen would approve of you also. Yeah. He was pretty big at building bridges across different denominations of Mennonites. So yeah.
Okay, so Didi approves both of us. Klaus disapproves both of us. Is that what we've established?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. I'm not sure if there's more questions here. And if you have more questions, please add them. There's a lot of comments here. Lorene Clausen wants an example of passive aggression from Kitchener-Waterloo. Or maybe what's a Kitchener-Waterloo passive aggression that would be unique to that area? I don't know if you can.
Oh boy. Okay, I did not come prepared for this question.
That's a tough one. You can think about it and come back. Okay. Someone is asking me about my colorful shirt, if it signifies something. Not everything means something. It's but I did wear this Johnny Cash shirt, and then I figured this Western shirt would go over top of that. Most of the time I wear blazers, so I thought I since we were drinking mocktails here, I thought I'd go for a more casual look. Janice Thiessen says, I find it hard to believe that that the Swiss are more passive aggressive than the Russian Mennos.
See, yeah, people find that hard to believe because they don't actually even recognize the passive aggressive Swiss. This is why it's hard to. It just comes off as a compliment, and we all think it's compliments until you actually like take it apart and really underneath it's not. So it's kind of brilliant because most of us don't even realize at the time that's why you find it hard to realize. But there were all these stories about my father being at like meetings with like with a bunch of Pennsylvania Dutch Mennonites in Kitchener-Waterloo, and they're all being shocked because he's like, actually saying things forthright about, when he's disagreeing with something, and that then he would still be friends with people afterwards. But that's the whereas they would tend to just kind of say things a little more sideways. And then you have, but I don't. I really shouldn't have said now. Now that's yeah.
But that is I think a thing with Southern Manitoba Mennonites, that they will say things. Maybe, I don't know if directly, but maybe not to your face, but they definitely like don't beat around the bush about certain things. They're pretty quick to make you go in front of the congregation and confess your
that's not as
the sins of wearing jean shorts at the pits or whatever.
Right. You see, it would be more like, oh, that's you're dressed pretty fancy today. Yeah.
Karen Klassen, is that another? Do you also know Karen?
No.
I'm not assuming that you know every Klassen. Okay, but
I don't know Karen Klassen.
But it actually says Karen Klassen, but then it says Richard Klassen here, related to Bruno and youth Dietrich Klassen. Okay, all sorts of.
Yeah. Okay.
Dietrich apparently says hi, but he doesn't think Dee Dee would laugh about it. He disagrees about it.
Well, I'll have to bring that up with my my remaining aunts and uncles and see what they say. I think he would laugh. I think he had a sense of humor.
But you weren't. Well, I don't want to assume, but I'm going to ask the question. You weren't worried about a negative reaction from people angry about this book, just like, maybe like Miriam Taves, sometimes gets a negative reaction amongst some folks with her writing. Yeah. You were not worried about that kind of thing?
No, I think it's kind of funny, right? That she these not actually realistic novel fictional portrayals are less controversial than the Mennonite cocktail book.
Yeah.
I think mostly because I am still I attend a Mennonite church. I'm a practicing Mennonite. So it's not just there. It's both the. I also worked pretty hard to make sure it was like the humor was all respectful, but I think that I'm an insider helps there. That current and all that.
Right. Janice Thiessen asks, what's your favorite cocktail in the book?
People always ask that, and it's kind of a hard question to answer because I've got favorite names. I've got favorite cocktails. One of my favorite cocktails that I just like to drink is the classic, The Last Word, and in the book I kind of adjusted it a little bit and called it The Last Verst. So it's one that references Mennonite farmer sausage. And so that's a favorite. And I also like the French 75, which in the book I call the French is in brackets, and then it's French 75-minute service. So referencing how long our worship services are, though somebody pointed out that sometimes they go longer than that. So I remember when I was a kid, they were 60 minutes on the dot, but
wow.
Yeah, I know.
My father was a minister and he would preach for 60 minutes.
I think Dee Dee did too, but where I grew up in Lax, Kitchener-Waterloo, they were 60 minutes, and you could set your watch by the church service. But yeah, that's I've not seen that to be the case.
Where do people rush off to after a Kitchener-Waterloo church service? Like where are they when there's not a pandemic? Where are they heading? Where are they going?
Well, yeah, I mean, once the Swiss Chalet opened, that was a big place to go afterwards. There was a restaurant called the Naughty Pine that we used to go to when I was a kid. I don't know anymore because I've been in Toronto for a while now. But so if that's changed, there may be other, middling restaurants where they all go.
Yeah. Have you ever been to a Chicken Chef well in Manitoba?
I have, yes.
You have?
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
I used to visit all the time when Dee Dee was alive. No, even since then, I visit family. I haven't visited in a while because pandemic, but and we don't always go to Chicken Chef, but yeah, I had family out around Carmen, and I think there's a Chicken Chef there.
The Chicken Chef in Steinbach and the one in Morden are both licensed now. So
Okay.
yeah,
I would not trust any cocktails that come out of a Chicken Chef.
they weren't doing cocktails, but this is sort of applicable. There was a pub in town in Steinbach here. We have pubs now, and they do cocktails, and they did one called the Daily Bonnet, and it was some sort of bourbon. Does that inspire?
You should tell them to make one of mine, and they should carry my book too. They should have a little play and carry my book.
That would be a good idea. Yeah.
We actually have a little bar close to me that has a little display and is carrying my book. They're a Dutch themed bar, which is kind of like okay, well, Menno Simons, but we don't have like Mennonite themed bar in the area. So
a couple questions here. Galen Graber asks how many Mennonite churches are there in Toronto, and then asks you if you know a certain person, Michelle Rizzoli.
I do. Yes, I know Michelle.
There's a lot of you should in Toronto. You shouldn't know, like, if this is a city of millions of people, you shouldn't like. But apparently,
yeah. There are how many Mennonite churches? Okay, there's it depends on, like, in the greater GTA. I don't know. There's a few because there's a couple up by Markham, and there's the one I go to, Toronto United Mennonite Church. That's the one that Michelle Rizzoli goes to. So yes, she's pastor there. So yes, I know her. Yes, and then there's the Danforth Mennonite Church. There's the Trinity Chinese, which I think is the largest Mennonite church in Toronto. I'm not sure if that's in congregation size or acreage. It's not, obviously not acreage, but it's in Toronto. And then there's a Black Creek congregation, and there's one in Mississauga. And oh man, this is a quiz. I didn't know to prepare for this question. There's a few. I think not as many as in Kitchener-Waterloo, certainly, and certainly not.
I'm sure that probably Steinbach alone has more than the GTA. I'm sure that Kitchener does too. Kitchener-Waterloo. St. Catherine's Mennonites frequent the Swiss Chalet after church as well, sometimes affectionately called Christian Chicken.
Oh.
I didn't know that it was Christian Chicken.
No, I didn't either. Yeah.
But I guess because it, yeah.
Do you think they baptize the chicken as adults?
But it's probably prayed over.
Maybe prayed over. Yeah.
More often than other chicken.
Right. Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Not in the kitchen, but you mean like when it's out at the table. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. You're not in the kitchen necessarily. Okay. Brad Flett comments about, it says extra points for the Croquemylo board, Andrew. As a Russian Menno from Manitoba, not far from Gimli, who married a Swiss Menno from the Midwest, I have to say I'm disappointed that somehow Croquemylo never caught on among the Swiss Mennos.
Oh, no. In Ontario it has. Yeah. Oh no, it's big in Tavistock.
I don't. Yeah, and I think it actually originates in Southern Ontario. That's where it was invented, right?
Yeah.
I was in a brewery in St. Jacobs, which is very Menno town. And they had crokinole boards that you could play, while you're having your craft beer. But Brad was wondering what would be the best Menno cocktail to drink while playing crokinole.
Well, there's one in the book.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure there's one in there.
Yeah. It's called the Croquemylo. Yes, and it's this one actually. I don't know if you can see. There's the picture. And so it is kind of like a Moscow Mule, except without the Moscow reference, because again, our thing with Russia. It's got rye whiskey because. Okay, I mean, I didn't mention this, but so we also in the Mennonite heritage, right? We do have a couple of distillers in our history, and rye whiskey is the Americans. We've got connections to both old Overholt whiskey and Jim Beam. So,
wow,
yeah. And on the Prussian side to brandy. So you've got a lot of rye whiskey, and I've got a lot of brandy. Page 120 there. That's useful. Page number. Yes. Sort of. I worked that into. I did work some sort of Mennonite references into some of the actual cocktail recipes as well. Yeah.
And Dutch Blitz on the cover.
Well, yes, not so much that the Dutch Blitz people would have any reason to think that we are infringing on their trademark.
Right.
Just whatever similarity you see is completely coincidental.
Right. Okay. It's not. It's just two people facing each other.
Yes.
Drinking cocktails.
Yes. Yeah. But there is a cocktail called the Blitz Elixir in there about Dutch Blitz, and you play Dutch Blitz?
Me? Yeah.
Have you tried Zoom? Have you tried Zoom Dutch Blitz? Because I haven't managed to make it work yet. All pandemic I tried and it didn't work at all.
You would have to somehow trust the other person was putting the card.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it would work. No.
And then your internet glitches right in the middle when you're like, need to take the file away.
Crokinole might work if you had two boards that were exactly the same, and then you flicked, and then
you placed.
The other person would place them exactly where they were afterwards.
Yeah.
So that could work. Yeah, we'll have to work on that. Well, I think it's about time to bring John back in here. Yeah. Thanks everyone for attending, and I guess John will have some departing words.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so very much, Andrew. Thank you so much, Sherry. That was so much fun. Just to prove that I am allowed to exist within this august company, I also do have my genealogy with me too. So I am not crashing the party at all.
Oh, are we? But how are we related?
Oh yes, this could lead to a very extensive conversation. But no, thank you so much. The book was the event is a delight. The book is a complete delight. So please do seek out a copy of Menno-Nightcaps wherever you can, particularly from McNally Robinson. And thank you so much to TouchWood for entrusting us with this event, to Andrew Unger for coming on board from his Daily Bonnet activities to host this event. Please do look out for his Daily Bonnet anthology, which is dropping any week now. And thank you so much to SL Klassen for the cocktail instruction, for all the stories, and for this incredible anthology of drinks. So much appreciated.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody. This video will remain live on YouTube if you'd like to reference it or spread it around. But otherwise, thank you again.